What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Form Check Friday. Hopefully everybody's gearing up to have a fantastic weekend, maybe even doing some training, hitting some PRs, and yeah, hope all is well with everybody out there. Now, real quick, if you're interested in having your video featured on Form Check Friday, go ahead and click the annotation on screen right now. It'll take you to a video that tells you everything you need to know about how to submit. What we're going to do is we're going to start off with Nick. Now, Nick submitted last week, or rather we showed Nick's lift last week, and we had the community weigh in the comments section. So now I'm going to give my take on Nick's deadlift. So he says he's been lifting for about 2 years, and he struggles with the rounding of his back. So number one here, man, like you can get into this really good position. So I think your back's just not strong enough, my dude. If you want to pull, if you want to be a flat back deadlifter, if that's a change that you think is in your best interest, and it may well be in terms of efficiency over the long term, it might be worth lightening the weight. Imagine that. Use less weight so that you can execute the technique the way you want it to look, as opposed to using a bunch of weight that is going to cause you to lift inefficiently. Basically, you'll need to increase the ceiling where at a given point you run into issues with your back, falling into flexion. So this may just be a bit too much weight when we're going from this to this. So, and the other thing is you may never be a flat back puller, and that's totally okay. There's nothing wrong with rounding your back when you deadlift. Yes, I said it. You heard me. I meant it. There's nothing wrong with rounding your back when you deadlift. In some cases, it can be less efficient, but there's certainly no snap city. You're going to explode. Your spine's going to just destroy itself by lifting like that. It's just not a thing. It has not been shown to be the case. However, I do think this is maybe a little bit inefficient, and given the fact that you can get into this really fantastic position, I think we just need more strength in the mid and low back, as well as probably a little bit more lat strength. So start doing some flat back deadlifts. Treat it as a totally separate movement. Change your max, change your programming so that 80% or more of the reps that you do, we maintain this really great position. If you can do that, I guarantee you're gonna, again, raise that ceiling. It's probably gonna be, when you get to a point where you're at a limit lift and you hit a 10 or you miss, chances are what's gonna happen is you're gonna fall apart that way. But you can definitely take that ceiling of the weight that you can lift with this new technique and increase it over time, and that should be the goal. It will take a while, it will take a lot of practice, and it will not be easy. There you go, no sexy answers, right? All right, this is Charlie. Charlie has been powerlifting for under a year and wants to compete. So squats are by far Charlie's favorite lift, and he's just finished cutting some weight. Says he maintains his strength really well, and says he has a thing where his knees kind of shoot forward in the hole. So I can definitely see that here, and I think part of that is just getting loose, right? Like we look really good all the way to depth, basically. And then there's this little tiny pop forward onto the toes where I think, we see the pop forward, we see the pop back out of the hole. So I think if you can just slow down that bottom position a little bit, maybe some paused work, maybe some tempo work, but you're falling onto your toes, right? Like we can see everything kind of pick up as you get into the bottom. There's this big shift here, boop, and then everything has to shift back on the way up, and then you're good. So potentially keeping more pressure on your heels, focusing on keeping the knees back and reaching your butt back this way instead of letting it scoop under you at the bottom are going to be cues that could be valuable. But the biggest thing is just going to be slowing it down, trying not to use so much like smacking into the bottom, and using a little bit more control. So like I said, tempo work, pause work, all going to be really good. It looks like you're just you're getting to a certain point in your squat and you just loosen up and smack the bottom. And that's when we fall forward and have to shoot back up like this. Other than that, like your basic squat mechanics, your bracing looks okay. It's just a matter of staying tighter. Staying tighter, knowing your back position, and hold on a sec. Also, what is that? That's an interesting re-rack. Please don't ever miss that. Maybe just adjust the hooks so that you can walk it straight in and you don't have to dive like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a risky position to be in. Adjust those rack heights, my man. It's easy enough to do, and could save you some sort of potential mishap. All right, Jan's doing some bench, and Jan says that he feels plateaued. He says he's widened his grip and he has some issue with his elbow position and bar path perhaps, but feeling very stuck in his bench press anyways. Let's see if we can identify what's going on with Jan's bench here. This looks really good to me actually, Jan. He says he's widened his grip, he's played with his training. Let me pull up Jan's email real quick here. What all has Jan done? Widened my grip, tried different setups. Okay. So I'm going to guess, Jan, that your biggest issues are going to be programming related. Because this bench to me looks very, very proficient. Like yes, you're loosening up a little bit and kind of like bouncing off the chest. So maybe some paused work would be a good inclusion in your program. But your trunk in general is staying very tight. I feel like your elbow position, your bar path looks really good. Like beyond, I would say, most submissions that we see on Form Check Friday, this looks quite good. So I think, Jan, the real examination here is, okay, are we doing enough bench work? And I don't mean add more weight and just like, go to an RP 10 every day. But I mean, maybe after this set, you could have done 2 or 3 lighter sets at like 70, 75%, right? Maybe increasing the frequency, maybe playing with special exercises and assistance exercises like long paused bench, incline bench, pin presses, dumbbell bench press, maybe adding in more work for the muscles involved via supplemental movements. Again, things like dumbbell bench press, feet up bench, things where you're getting a good pump, overhead press. I would say that this is probably more of a programming plateau, and that by investigating some programs like the free Calgary Barbell program or the limited equipment program we have for sale on calgarybarbell.com/coaching-shop, might be a good place to start. I mean, there's tons and tons of free, well done powerlifting programs all over the internet. So just give yourself a Google search for powerlifting programs. Try ours out if you want. And I bet that'll help, just doing more bench work, because your bench technique looks good. It really does. All right. Now, this is, again, I'm probably going to butcher your name here. Ile? Let's take a look. All right. So, Ile has been lifting for about 4 months, wants to compete. And this is 120 kilos for a 3x3. He says he switched grip for the 3rd rep because he was using double overhand as opposed to using a mixed grip. He says he has a hard time keeping his back at a neutral angle, and we can see, yeah, there's maybe like a little bit of loss of position there. I think the biggest thing is this is just like a really challenging set. I think we could probably be using a fair bit less weight for training so that we can, again, cultivate the technique you want to use. If you can think of a way that you want to move and you kind of know what you need to do to fix your technique, do it. Use weights that allow you to move the way that you want to move, the way that feels better. If going really heavy makes you move in a way that feels inefficient or otherwise, painful or detrimental in some way, shape, or form, use less intensity. It's as simple as that, right? Part of this might be slow because the grip's being challenged, right? But that first rep looked to me like it was very challenging. The second rep looked really easy. And then the third rep, again, once we got the grip set, looked pretty easy. I think that bit of rounding that you're seeing here is probably not my main concern. My main concern would be starting with the hips really high on this first rep. And you'll see on this second rep, we get a bit of a better hip position before the bar comes off the floor. So we're starting a little more here, right? One other thing, you're pretty slight, like it doesn't look like you're super tall. So I would maybe narrow the grip and the stance a little bit, kind of bring things a little more compact so that you can, you know, get a little bit further from the bar in your start position, right? The further out you go, the closer you get, the closer your stance gets, the sort of more upright and further from the bar you can get in the bottom. Now, all told, I think you've got a good deadlift technique. I think you just need to take your time with the loading. I forgot to mention, Ile is 14 years old. He mentioned here somewhere. So, young guy, recently starting out with deadlifts. Just take your time. Take your time, right? I think you know what technique you've seen that you want to emulate that kind of fits how you should or want to look. It's just you got too much weight on the bar to do it. So, man, especially starting this young, take your time. Take your time, take your time, take your time. I'm gonna say it one more time. Take your time. There's no rush. No rush. You got a big head start on everybody. I didn't start lifting till I was 23, and I do okay. All right, this is Davis. Davis has been lifting for 2 years, and this is 120 for a set of 5. Holy depth, Batman. All right, so probably could cut some of that depth. You could probably squat a little bit higher, honestly. Like, that's probably good. But you're going quite a bit deeper than that. And what happens is, because you're going so much deeper, your heels are picking up a little bit and all your weight's shifting forward. So I would say you could maintain a lot more tightness through the trunk at the expense of depth and still hit competitive depth. Your squat mechanics look really good. Again, we got some awkward stuff kind of going on with the upper arm here. Looks like the elbows are really far back and the shoulders are shrugged up. I'd like to see the shoulders pulled down and the elbows pulled down a little bit more so that when you're in the bottom, your elbows are a little bit more in line with your body. It can be a really big help in creating more tightness in that upper back, because it looks to me like it's a little bit loose. So I think when the weight gets heavier, we're going to start getting pulled forward by the bar. And, you know, if we can kind of tighten the upper back, that's going to help keep the bar aligned with our sort of center of gravity here, as opposed to letting it pull us forward when the weight gets heavier, when we start to get fatigued, right? Obviously the camera's moving slightly on me, so I'm not going to be able to make that perfect point of reference, but you can see where the heels kind of pick up at the bottom and everything shifts forward. Right? So a little less depth, a little more trunk and upper back tightness. And I think you've got the makings of a very, very good squat there, Davis. All right. Next up, we have Marvin. Now, Marvin's been doing powerlifting for about 2.5 years. He says that his elbows flare out a lot and probably too much. And he says that causes him to lose control and position. So this is 130 for a triple at 9, and I want everybody watching this to go ahead and head down into the comments section below, leave your constructive criticisms and critiques, any cues that you think might help Marvin improve his bench technique. Go ahead and put those in the comments section below, and we're going to start with Marvin next episode, which is, of course, next Friday. Thank you all for watching. Leave a like if you liked it, and go ahead and hit that subscribe button for more content like this. See ya.